Hello everyone, in this video we will be talking about the WalkSnail Avatar VRX. And this is the VRX made by WalkSnail so that we can output 1080p 60 frames per second to our existing goggles. Unfortunately, this doesn't work with the DJI system and some goggles or analog goggles that doesn't have an HDMI in. So if you have the goggles that has an HDMI in, you can buy this VRX and you can save a little more money going to the WalkSnail system. But if you don't have an existing goggles and you really want to try out an HD system that is quite similar to DJI, you can probably buy the WalkSnail goggles. But it's a bit pricey, especially if you have an existing system already. Okay, so without further ado, let's do an unboxing. Let's see what is inside of this. Let's go! The good thing about the WalkSnail system is that they are trying actually to replicate the DJI system. As we all know, the DJI system is quite expensive, especially you have to be if you want to go directly with the O3 Air unit, you need to have the goggles, you have the O3 Air unit, you need also the radio controller. So if you have an existing analog system, you cannot use that on the Air 3 unit. So far on the tests made by some of the YouTube reviewers, if you use an ELRS system controller, there are some bugs that happens with the DJI O3 Air unit. So might as well just go directly with the whole system of DJI if you really want to use that O3 Air unit. But for the previous version of DJI, the WalkSnail system is similar in many ways. This can output up to 1080p 60 frames per second. I'm not sure if you can update that to 120 fps, but for the 720p it supports up to 120 frames per second. So if you really want that low latency, you can use that option for this VRX. If you have extra money, actually you can go directly and buy the WalkSnail goggles, which is similar to the VRX, but of course it has a good diopters and good screen that can output this system very well. So let's try to open up and see what is inside. Actually, I opened it up a while ago, but I just want to show you how it looks like inside. You have this two barrel connector. It's a split, so you can use your existing one. So for example, in my case, I have this goggles battery. I can just plug it in, then I can power up the goggles and the VRX. You also have an HDMI. This is a mini HDMI, so you can connect this to VRX and the other one would be on your goggles. You also have some Allen wrench and some screws, so if you want to use the mount, you can actually use this screw. Okay, so you also got two stubby antennas. I believe these are LHCP and RPSMA, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't have a pin. So this is the Avatar VRX. As you can see, it's really light, made out of plastic so that it won't be too heavy on your face. But it is well made, even though it is made out of plastic. It's really thin as well. Comparing it with the HDZero VRX, you can see how thin it is. Also, I think there's a similarity with the VRX of HDZero. Actually, this one, the VRX, if you would remember, Fat Shark supported the HDZero system before, and the design of the previous VRX is actually white with patch antennas in front and two antenna port on top. This has a similar design decision with this WalkSnail VRX. You have two patch antennas in front, and you got to separate port at the top so that you can only update the two antennas. Meanwhile, with the HDZero VRX, since some of the pilots requested HDZero to DV Math to just put four ports here, and they changed the previous design to this one. You would ask me, for a beginner drone pilot, this is a good way. You got already everything, the antennas, so you just need to plug it in, then you can fly your drone already. Meanwhile, really, the HDZero, you have to tinker and find your way on some of the things here. You just need to place your antennas on top, and this would be the this would be the WalkSnail VRX. Okay, let's look at the sides, and so we can try to point out some of the buttons here. You have your micro SD card slot, you have your DC slot. At the bottom, you have your HDMI port, and on the top, you got this 5-way switch or controller, so you can also press it. You have your bind button here, play button for your videos and recording, and of course you have your back button. That is the WalkSnail VRX. It can actually support 1080p, as I have said earlier. It can also support 720p up to 120 frames per second. But unfortunately, most of the goggles that is currently out in the market does not support that high frame rate, because they can only output up to 60 frames per second, 1080p and 720p. The only goggles that supports that that high frame rate is actually the WalkSnail goggles, and the outlier, which is the HDZero goggles. Okay, so later in the video, I will tell you why I went this route instead of going directly with the WalkSnail goggles. If you use this on a regular analog goggles, such as the SkyZone 04s, if you will use the high frame rate, it will just turn black, so you will not be able to see anything. So you cannot see the menu. So what you need to do is you need to press the back button, I think 10 seconds or less. Let's see what the manual. No, they did not disclose the seconds, but I think around 10 seconds. Then your output would return back to 720p 60 frames per second, so you will be able to see the menu again. So this one, it is greatly supported by the HDZero. Actually, DVMat and the developers made an update for the HDZero so that it will work with the high frame rate of the WalkSnail VRX. Okay, so some of the comments that people will tell you is that if you go through this route of using the VRX, actually you will introduce latency. So the moment your image is rendered by the VRX, you still need to convert it to an HDMI signal so that this HDMI can go to your goggles. So you add that extra latency on your videos. But if you would ask me, that latency would be not that significant. But because the moment you get this, you know that what you're after is the quality of the video. Since this is trying to emulate the DJI system, it can actually output good videos directly from the VRX that you can also record through this micro SD card slot and the 8 gig internal memory. Your VTX can actually record also the exact video feed, and you can actually output that 1080p 60 frames per second directly from your goggles and your VTX. So you get this for the quality of the video, not the latency. Although some people would argue that latency is more important, but for me, I think the video quality is more important. And since I'm not I don't use my drones for the very quick freestyle or even racing. So I think the WalkSnail system is good enough for my use case. Okay, so you have finally have the Avatar VRX, and you want to clip it on your HDZero goggles. You need to have this 3D printed files so that you can clip on your VRX to the railing system of the HDZero goggles, which is that one. This is the railing system, so you can mount the WalkSnail's VRX in front of these goggles. If you don't have a 3D printer, or if you don't have any access to this kind of 3D print, you can just probably place a sticky tape or double-sided foam tape and directly mount it on your HDZero system. But the problem would be you may damage this paint. Use this double-sided tape provided by WalkSnail and put it in front of your rails. Okay, this is, I think, a permanent tape, and then from there we just need to clip this on. So right there we already placed the 3D prints. I think this we use the ABS, but I also got another print. This is TPU, just in case that won't work. This is made out of TPU. It's a bit soft, so you can also use this. But I noticed that this would bend, and you won't be able to firmly place the VRX. When you put it on your bag, this may come loose. So you can use PETG for your print, or you can use ABE if I'm not mistaken. Then we will put some of the tape. So we already placed the tape. Okay, so right now we have firmly placed the Avatar VRX on our HDZero goggles. One thing I noticed is that it became heavy in front, but let's try to see what it looks like when we wear it. So this is how it looks like. It's not too noticeable, the weight, but you need to firmly place your strap so that it won't fall down, because you will notice that it is really a bit heavy on the front part, and the goggles will tend to move downward. Okay, so now let's look at the weight of this whole system. Without yet, it's already 477 grams. Let's add this, and yeah, we're around 490 grams already, almost half a kilo. So I would suggest not to put your battery in this part of the strap here, this part, so that it won't be too heavy for your face. 95 grams. Meanwhile, the HDZero is 84 without any of the antennas, but if you probably use this antenna, 89, 93, so another 2 antennas would be probably around 100 grams. So this is way lighter than the HDZero system, HDZero VRX, I mean. Okay, so this is the menu system of the Avatar VRX. Unfortunately, it doesn't work directly to my monitor, so I'm recording through my Skyzone Cobra X. Actually, as you notice, it is really similar to a full WalkSnail goggles. So everything is here, everything, the menu system. Okay. So far, right now, I haven't turned on the mode light 7. As soon as you turn it on, you should be able to see a footage here. Okay, it is now on. Hopefully they see each other. Okay, there you go. So I turned off the light. So let's try to turn on the light. So that is the footage directly from the WalkSnail. So my face is a bit blurred because it's a two image binded together by the goggles here. Now, why didn't I go directly with the WalkSnail goggles? Actually, everything here, everything in this VRX, it is very similar with the WalkSnail goggles. Basically, this is the WalkSnail goggles without the OLED screen. So what I need is an OLED screen that can output that high frame rate. And the good thing, I got the HDZero goggles. And this is the only goggles that can actually support that high frame rate. Because most of the analog goggles does not have that high frame rate. They are capped at 60 frames per second. So this is actually a good option if you really want to save money instead of just going directly with the WalkSnail goggles. But if you are new to this and you have extra money and you don't have the gear, the existing gears, go directly with the WalkSnail goggles, because probably in the future, we do not know, it can probably support up to the 1080p 100 frames per second. But for now, since we really want to dwell and to try out the WalkSnail system, we went with this VRX. It's built very well. It's really light. So if you would place this on your goggles, it will not weigh too much. And especially if we put this in our head, the heavier it is, the more difficult it is to fly your drone. So I hope this video helped you to decide if you really like to try the WalkSnail system. And as always, see you on the next video. Happy flying. See you around.